What is up, you guys? It's John here. Now, I've done a few videos in the past about music and singing, and today I think it's worth going back to the basics. This video is really going to be a crash course about how to read music. When we go to church, we read music, we open a hymnal, and it's really hard to sing if you don't know how to read music. I also have videos about sight singing and Gregorian chant if you want to go check those out as well. But this video will explain all of the basics so you can improve your music reading skills for the next time you go to Mass and open up a hymnal. Because after all, St. Augustine said, to sing is to pray twice. So I want to help you and make your worshiping experience the best it can be. So without further ado, make sure you smash the like button for the YouTube algorithm and let's get started. So let's start with the staff. Unless if you're singing Gregorian chant, you will most likely be singing modern notation, which is made up of a staff with 5 lines and 4 spaces. Now, every line and every space represent a white key on the piano keyboard. So let's talk about clefs. The 2 clefs that are often used are the treble clef and the bass clef. However, in a hymnal, you'll most likely be reading from a treble clef. So let's talk about the treble clef. It's also called a G clef because the swirl at the bottom of the treble clef wraps around the G line. And here are all the notes for every line and space on the treble clef. Now, really quick, let's cover the bass clef. Here is the picture of all of the notes for every line and space on the bass clef. Now, this is where it gets good. The 2 clefs, the treble and the bass, are joined by the C note and create the grand staff. So that's how they relate. But most likely, you're only going to be dealing with the treble clef. Now, let's talk about note duration. The length of time that a note is played is called its note duration, and that could be determined by the type of note. The whole note has the longest note duration in modern music, and the half note has half of the duration of the whole note. 2 half notes equal the same amount of time as a whole note. 4 quarter notes equal the same amount of time as a whole note. And the pattern continues. We have the whole note, the half note, the quarter note, the 8th note, and the 16th note. The 8th note has 1 flag, and the 16th note has 2 flags. So again, I'll put up a chart of how all the notes break down mathematically. Now, let's talk about time signatures and measures. There are vertical black lines called bar lines, and they divide the grand staff into measures. Time signatures define the amount and the type of the notes that are contained in each measure. The top number dictates how many beats per measure, and the bottom number dictates what note gets the beat. Here's an example of 4/4 time. The top number says that there's 4 beats in a measure, and the bottom number, the 4, shows us that the quarter note gets the beat. Now, let's talk about rest duration. Rest represent periods of silence. What's really cool is that each type of rest share a duration with a type of note. So the types of rest that you'll probably run into are the whole rest, the half rest, the quarter rest, the 8th rest, and the 16th rest. In music, you'll also see ties and dots. The fancy words for them are tenuto ties and augmentation dots. All that they do is alter the duration of the note. If you see a dot, the dot is half the value of the note before it. Now, let's talk about ties. Ties merge notes of the same pitch. Now, they usually occur because of the time requirements in a measure. Remember how I talked about time signatures? Well, let's go back to the example of the 4/4 measure. Say you want to put a half note on beat 4 of the measure. Well, you can't do that because that would have 5 beats in one measure. So what you would have to do is do a quarter note on beat 4 tied to the next measure. It would sound exactly the same, but it obeys the rules of the time signature. The last thing I think is worth talking about today are accidentals. In music, there are half steps and whole steps. An accidental is a sign to raise or to lower a note. A flat will lower the pitch by a half step, a sharp will raise the pitch by a half step, and a natural cancels out any accidental that's put in the key signature. So I hope this helped. I know this isn't everything, but with a little bit of practice, I think this can help your music reading skills next time you go to Mass and pull out a hymnal. As always, let me know if you have any questions. I know this was a lot of information. And with that said, you guys, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you haven't done so already, make sure you smash that like button, subscribe button, and notification bell so you get notified every time I post a new video. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.